Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the last day of the Gobeshona conference and our session on forests as nature-based solutions to climate change mitigation and adaptation. My name is Dr. Samiya Selim, and I'm a Associate Professor and Director of the Center for Sustainable Development at University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh. Our research center focuses on interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research on a variety of cross-cutting topics that fall under the umbrella of sustainable development. One of these is closely related to our sessions today. We work a lot on climate change adaptation, particularly on ecosystem-based adaptation and resilience, in which nature-based solutions play a strong role. So just a little bit briefing about today's session, which is jointly organized by ULAB and Iucn, and I'll be shortly introducing our chair. So this session it's been designed to learn about the roles of forests and forestry within the NBS, nature-based solutions research, and how in policy and implementation, and how forests can play an important role in moderating climate change. As we know, forests absorb about 1/4 of carbon dioxide and provide a wide range of ecosystem services to communities and to human well-being, as well as it helps to reduce social vulnerability. Thus, we think forests are a great source of climate change mitigation and adaptation, and can be part of the dialogue around nature-based solutions. So in this context, this session will cover both the perspective of climate change-based initiatives taken by the Forestry Department of Bangladesh, as well as international development agencies. We have a really distinguished group of panelists, as well as rich talks that they're given. So without further ado, I'm now going to hand over to our chair, Mr. Rakibul Amin, who's the country representative Iucn Bangladesh, to say a few words, and then we will jointly be moderating our session today, and hopefully have some rich discussions, which we can then take forward some recommendations that can be included in future research, as well as anything that can be taken to policy, so we can continue this work, which is really important and forms a great significance to nature-based solutions. Thank you. And on that note, I'd like to now hand over to Mr. Rakibul Amin.
Samiya, Rakibul has got disconnected. Maybe you can continue. He's trying to reconnect.
Okay. Well, so it's interesting because both Iucn obviously has a long, and I'm sure Rakibul will tell you all about the work they have already been doing in this agenda, and we'll also hear about actual work that's being done. But I just really wanted to, highlight that this theme, our work hasn't necessarily been on our work at CSD on the initiatives around forestry, but it's very cross-cutting with the other issues that we do work on. So how forestry and the importance of forest conservation to livelihoods and to addressing social equity, and obviously the wider picture of climate change mitigation. So and
Hello, Digonto. Is Samiya on? Okay. I guess we have Rakib bhai or Khalid bhai. Can you please?
I just
continue?
joined back. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
I
You
think
can-
there is some problem because I've been being disconnected continuously. Anyway,
Rakib, hi, we cannot hear you.
hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Uh,
Hello.
I guess there is some problem. Khalid bhai, can you please continue?
Sure. Okay. Tasvi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you properly.
Okay. So I think our moderators are having some trouble.
Yes, yes. We are connecting with them. Please continue and introduce the first presenter probably, and then in the meantime, I'm trying to reach.
Sure.
Thank
So,
you.
Okay.
Rakibul, are you back?
I'm back.
So you can continue.
Hello.
Rakibul, you can continue with the first speaker.
Sorry, I got disconnected as well. I just came back on. Rakibul is back, so is he giving? Rakibul is here.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So Rakibul, did you want to say a few words and then? Right. I think we'll get started with our talks first now, since we don't want to use up too much time. Right. So on that note, I'd first like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Muhammad Rakibul Islam Mokul, Deputy Chief Conservator of Forest, Bangladesh Forest Department, who's going to give us his talk on Red Plus initiative in Bangladesh to reduce forest degradation and deforestation. Your talk?
Okay, thank you. Can you listen to me?
Yes, we can
Can you hear me?
you.
Okay.
We can hear you. Thank you.
I just want to share my screen. Where can I find the screen? Yeah.
It's in
Yeah,
the below.
sure.
Raise
Okay.
share.
Can you see it now?
It's just, yes, we can see.
Can you
Okay,
go on the slideshow mode
yes.
so that it comes in the full screen?
Let me do it.
Yes, here.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
perfect. Great.
Okay, then I can start with. I think I can thank Mr. Chair, Mr. Rakibul Amin, country representative Iucn, also the today's moderator, Samiya Selim. I think they have just tried to start it in a good way, but due to some difficulties, the session was disrupted. Okay, my presentation topic is Red Plus initiatives in Bangladesh, and as we speak about Red Plus, it is very much linked with the global climate negotiations. It is the outcome of global climate negotiation, and it has the potential of contribution from forestry sector. So my presentation topic is kind of, I will start with the easy areas, and Dr. Mariam will later finish with the difficult areas. That is how we calculated our Red Plus for forest reference emission level. So my presentation outline is about what is Red Plus, how it is evolved, what is the Red Plus readiness in terms of a country, and what is the approaches of Red Plus, and how we are prepared in Bangladesh to initiate Red Plus programming, and how we developed our national forest monitoring system, and how we achieved our forest reference level, and then we developed a strategy for Bangladesh and what are our future actions. This is my presentation outline. Basically, I will start with the REDD+. As said by moderator Samiya, we have a lot of potentials to emission reduction through the forestry sector. Globally, it is around 17% of the global emission can be reduced from the forestry sector through utilizing forestry sector. The term REDD+ has two parts. One is REDD and another is plus. The REDD means reducing emission from deforestation and reducing emission from degradation. 2D is for deforestation and degradation. And the plus is for latter three activities. One is conservation of forest carbon stock and sustainable management of forest and enhancement of forest carbon stock in forest. So this is in short REDD+, and it evolved through various, I think, global climate negotiation, starting with the 2005 in Montreal, the issue raised that forestry sector can contribute globally, and then again in Bali 2007, again 2009, the discussion continued. And in 2013, in Warsaw COP19, we found a framework that consists all the components necessary for a REDD+ activity in a country. And also it was included, the discussion also continued in the Paris Agreement. In Agenda 5 of Article 5 of Paris Agreement, it details out how REDD+ outcome will be evaluated and result-based payments will be done through the Paris Agreement. So this is in short the evaluation of REDD+ in the international negotiation. So if a country has to be REDD+ ready, they have to have a national strategy for REDD+ implementation. They have to have a calculation for national reference emission level. There is a historical emission and the average emission of a country. They have to calculate it. And we must have a transparent forest monitoring system. And we also have a mechanism to identify all the safeguard measures for the communities. So this is in short a REDD+ framework that has to be developed for a country to be REDD+ ready. So to do this, international mechanism identified three phases. One is preparation phase, one is implementation phase, and last part is result-based, finance-based. So in our country, we are actually in the merge of phase 1 and phase 2 position, because we prepared a national REDD+ strategy that is submitted to Ministry for adoption, and we have developed our capacity in certain extent, but we have to develop more. And phase 2, it is the implementation of REDD+ strategy and more capacity building. So in my view, we are in the first two phases. Phase 1 and phase 2 is merged, and we are waiting for the phase 3 implementation. So how we went into this process? So in 2012, Bangladesh government prepared an action plan for REDD+ readiness. Then in 2012, we have prepared a map for our readiness programming, and we have developed two proposals, project proposals, with the funding of UN REDD program and some funding from USAID. This is about a national program for REDD+ implementation, and another project is to have a national forest inventory to have sound monitoring system for forest in support of REDD+. So we developed two projects and we implemented these two projects starting from 2013. And in our total process, we are supported by USAID financially, UN REDD International Program financially, FAO and UNDP to have all this consultation and also have the technical capacity development. So starting with the land use map preparation, we ended with in 2019 in a consultation of, I think that is REDD+ national strategy development process, we ended. So through this process, we have several workshops in different regional and national levels. And a lot of organizations participated in this process, including ministries, research organizations, universities, and our technical partners, FAO and UNDP. So through this process, we developed two important documents for the national country. One is National Red Plus Strategy. We call it Bangladesh National Red Plus Strategy, BNRS. It was drafted and submitted to ministry. And the latter, first document was actually the forest reference emission level, which will be discussed later on by Dr. Mariam in this webinar. I think this is the foundation of Bangladesh Forest Department in the areas of mitigation. Actually, we are contributing to the adaptation process in the countries through coastal afforestation and others, but we are not actually into the mitigation process. This time in Bangladesh, Forest Department is trying to have a very focused mitigation approach. That is, we identified our emission level in forest areas, and also we developed our capacity to calculate this emission, and we developed our staff capacity to deal with the mitigation activities in future. So this is our approach. So in these approaches, I think we have, as I said, we have a lot of workshops at different levels. And finally, we developed some policies and measures that is required for implementing RED Plus process. That is, we have to reduce degradation from forestation and reduce emission from degradation. 2D is there, so a little confusing sometimes. So so we have pointed out several policies and measures that has to be addressed to improve our mitigation from forestry sector. So major issues is based on forest reference emission level that will be discussed by Mariam. So I'm skipping all forest reference level things. It will coming later. And for these issues, we submitted, as I said, we submitted the RED Plus forest reference level to UNFCCC, and we developed all the things we documented in Bangladesh Forest Information System geoportal in Bangladesh Forest Department website, and also we prepared the forest reference level for forest national strategy. Based on FRL, we have identified some degradation, deforestation, and areas of forest enhancement, and where forest is stable. It will be discussed by Mariam later on. So in total, our deforested area is almost 151,912 hectares deforested areas, which has to be addressed in some way. 86% of these areas are formed into shrubs and scattered areas, and 6% of our degradation and deforested areas turn into agriculture, and 4% converted to rivers and khals, and 2% is converted to settlements. This is, in short, some findings of forest reference level. And if we go further, we developed a national RED Plus strategy that is a document that tells Forest Department is in the era of mitigation. We described our goal as to facilitate and catalyze transformational change in the forest sector to lower greenhouse gas emissions, enhance conservation of biodiversity and ecosystem, sustain community livelihoods, longer-term economic growth. So these are our vision for RED Plus strategy. And we also highlighted some important areas. That is, we have to increase capacity development for forest management. We have to deal with the forest dependent communities for their improved livelihood. It was also discussed by today's moderator at some point, and we have to increase our forest cover. Our target is to increase forest cover to 16% of our land area, surface area. We have to deal with the illegal encroachment in natural forest areas. We have to reduce pressure of fuel wood collection and timber harvesting and natural forest. These suggestions, major identification of major areas are based on some of the based on the workshops and some of the policies and measures we identified. We have targeted some of the major achievement through this national strategy. One is we have to contribute towards SDG We have to, our current forest is around 14.5% against total country land area. We have to increase it up to 16%. We have to contribute towards NDC. While we were preparing the National RED Plus strategy, our NDC didn't include forestry sector. But right now we are in the NDC updating process. We are hopeful that this time another 2 sectors will be included in our national determined contribution. One is agriculture sector, in where forestry is a part. So we are in the NDC update process. So we want to contribute there. Again, we have to improve our forest resource from 22% to 24% by 2020. This is also a part of our strategy. Sorry. We have to provide clean cook stove and other I think smart cooking devices and I think energy system to some of the users. We mentioned particularly cook stove, clean cook stove, and we have to digitize our land management system. Our land management is very, I think, in a difficult position. That's why we have a lot of encroachment. We have a lot of legal issues. So we have to improve in this area. So we have actually identified in our strategy 2 strategic areas. One is to reduce deforestation and forest degradation. In there, we have 6 thematic areas. One is supply of alternative energy, efficient energy technologies, and timber substitute. Fuel wood supply in forested districts, improve livelihood of forest-dependent communities, and forest land tenure related difficulties, resolving of forest land tenure difficulties. And also we have to improve institutional capacities. For each of the thematic areas, we have some policies and measures as identified. We have identified 14 policies and measures that will deal with all these thematic areas. And based on policies and measures, we have identified some possible projects which we can undertake in future. And we have calculated what will happen in the emission reduction level if we undertake all these projects or we improve all these policies and measures. So in our document, it is largely described. And again, we have a strategic area that tells about enhancement of forest carbon stock. That in there, we identified 3 other areas: reforestation, afforestation, and conservation of forest carbon stocks. So in there, we have only 3 policies and measures, and that will lead to our implementation of the RED Plus strategy. So through these areas, we are actually, based on WASTO framework of RED Plus, we missed one important aspect, that is safeguard information system. If you watched carefully, we have 4 components. We actually dealt with the 3 components, and safeguard information system was not in our project agenda. So it was really actually not implemented, but Forest Department and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has a plan to prepare our safeguard information document with the help of a UNDP project that is currently in implementation in Chittagong Hill Tracts for natural, I think, natural assisted natural information programming. Yeah, I think I can finish by 2 minutes. Yeah. So we have to continuously update our capacity enhancement because of in RED Plus, it is very technical issues. If we hear the Mariam's presentation, you will how technical it is to evaluate the technical performance in terms of emission. And we have proposed some of the national committees for RED Plus implementation in Bangladesh, which is under review by the ministry. Hopefully it will be approved pretty soon. And we have identified some of the policies and measures that needs investment. We need some investment in forestry sector. And again, we have to develop some joint programming with the assistance of other ministries, particularly Ministry of Environment Forest, Ministry of Chittagong Hill Tracts Affairs, Ministry of Power and Transport, and also Ministry of and particular Department of Environment. We have to develop some joint programming. Again, one thing I have to mention here, that once the strategy is approved, we have to work more on it, more with the implementation process, because we not even implemented a single project after the strategy finalization, because as we go through the RED plus process, we have a plus result ready. We have RED plus baseline, which is ready by 2015. From 2015 to 20, we have again in another RED plus reference period. So our results will be evaluated from 2016 onwards. So we are actually in the technically we are actually in the RED plus result framework, result period. So in that case, if we cannot, if we have to update the RED plus, I think emission level by the end of 2020, by the end of 2022, we will have to submit another transparency report to UNFCCC that has a contribution from forestry sector. So I think we have a prompt as the things are, I think, approved by the ministries and the governments, we will have to focus on implementation of these systems. I think this is from now. This is all from now from me, and we can go to the Mariam's presentation for a later discussion. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Rakibul Hasan. That really set the scene of our talk today, understanding what Bangladesh has done to date, what are the plans, and now I'd like to invite, we will have Q&A, but as I said, after the first two talks, we will have a session with question and answer. So do type in your questions in the chat or Q&A, and we will take those after our next talk. Thank you so much again, sir. We would now like to invite to give us her talk on the forest reference level for RED Plus in Bangladesh. If you can have you share your screen, Mariam.
Yes, thank you, Salima. I think
Sorry,
Mr. Rakibul Hasan, please, you can
yes, if you can
share your screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it stopped?
No, it's still sharing.
Okay.
Oh, yes, it's stopped.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I think you can see my screen. So thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, panelists, moderators, and participants who they are attached with this webinar today. Good afternoon and good morning, whatever applicable. Okay. So I will share the forest reference level for RED Plus in Bangladesh. So our previous presenter explained the RED Plus implemented in Bangladesh. He explained detailed, so I will only go through the what you have seen here is forest reference level, and I will to some extent discuss about the UNFCCC guidelines, what is there, and how we calculated the forest reference level, and what data were used, and the forest reference level, and the process. So this slide you have seen already, within the 4 milestone, what we did in the readiness phase in Bangladesh, I will only discuss this box, which is forest reference level. So let's see, as UNFCCC, what is the definition by UNFCCC? What is forest FREL and FRL? Maybe we already know it. That's for FREL means forest reference emission level, and FRL means forest reference level. Emission level, it's to some extent it's related to the forest deforestation and forest degradation, and forest reference level is related to the plantation, afforestation, and reforestation activities. So according to the UNFCCC guideline, what is there is we have to look at the forest definition, what is what we'll be using for this for the country for different purposes like greenhouse gas inventory and other reporting requirements, and what is the scope and REDD+ activities in Bangladesh. We need to identify what are the historical data we will be using and what are the methodological information like data sets, approaches, assumptions, plans, what are available in the country. And technical assessment is related to the transparency, accuracy, completeness, consistent, and comparability. So all those things we just considered for the development of our forest reference level. So you can see in this slide that we have started developing our forest reference level in 2016, and several of the years we took actually where we organized several of the meetings, several of the workshops and trainings, and we involved the stakeholders, specifically the forest department officials, as well as participants from the teachers from the universities, and who they are working in the for providing information for monitoring, for forest monitoring. All of them were involved in these processes. You can see the names as well in the slide below: Ministry of Environment and Forest, Climate Change, Forest Department of Environment, SPARSO, universities, and our custodian agencies who they are supporting to implement the SDGs. So several of the documents we developed as well, those which are available in Bangladesh Forest Information System. So let's see what is the definition of forest that we considering actually for developing the data, so that the consistent data we can develop, and we can develop as well as the comparable data sets for the future. So when we say land spanning more than 0.5 hectares with trees higher than 5 meters, and canopy cover is more than 10%, and trees able to reach this threshold in situ. I think this is common for many of the countries, which is FAO adopted definition, but for our case, we just added within bracket, you can see it, exception for Sirius Dikanda with height of 2 meters. That is, we wanted to consider the whole Sundarban as a forest area, because Sirius Dikanda, its local name is Goran, which is only has height about 2 meters, can reach height about 2 meters. So we considered that trees as well to consider as a forest. So this is the definition. Whenever we say it forest, then you can think that this is the definition, what we are saying about forest. So pools, scope in Bangladesh, whenever we say it, it's for considering the emission calculation, we just took, we considered 2 pools, above ground biomass and below ground biomass, these 2 carbon pools. And you can see also the soil carbon, litters and deadwood were not considered under this FRL. And greenhouse gas, if we say greenhouse gas, then we say that the carbon dioxide is considered only for forest reference emission level development. So you can see this map. We considered the 5 zone for developing the forest reference level. These 5 zones is, the big one is the village, we say village, and other 4 are Shal forest zone, Sundarban, coastal, and hill forest zone. These 5 zones we considered for emission level development, and we calculated for 5 zone. And this zone actually we developed based on the ecological system, ecology, salinity, altitude, and soil we considered to develop this zone. And the REDD+ activities, and we considered under the FREL is deforestation. If we know the term deforestation, I will not say it about detail. I think you know it already. Forest degradation, enhancement, and these three activity we considered under forest reference emission level development. You can see it, this diagram exactly showing what we considered. Maybe this is very preliminary slides for some of us, and for some of us maybe new. Whenever we just used land cover map from 2000 and a land cover map from 2015 for development of the emission level. When we see that non-forest area in 2000 is also the non-forest area in 2015, we said it non-forest stable, this activity. And non-forest area in 2000, when we see there is a forest, we can say it reforestation. And like this way, if whenever forest area in 2000, if we see it in 2000 no forest, then we are saying it deforestation. In this way, I just clarified this slide. If we have question, then we can come here later on as well. If you see this matrix here, areas in 2000, if there is forest in 2000, then if 2015, if we see the area is the same tree cover under forest, then we are saying it forest. If there is no forest, then we are saying it deforestation. And in enhancement, we are saying it reforestation and reforestation. And in the other zones like trees outside forest, that is village zone, this area is not considered under the forest reference emission level development. The historical data we have at Forest Department since 1997, these are the digitalized data. We used them for the calculation of above ground biomass. Actually, they are the emission factors. We use inventory data from 1997, 2001, 2007, 2009, 2010, and 2014. So huge data we have from the inventory plots. So those were accumulated. And we found that for these classes, there are the emission factors of those areas. Those classes are really matches with the land cover map of 2000 and 2015. So these are the formulas. I will not go in detail, but emission, how we did calculated them. And these are some of the formulas. If you have some question, I will come back. I will not explain those formulas here as well. Emission factor calculation and how we calculated the forest reference level. Its emission removal is equal to activity data into emission factor. For 15, for calculation of annual emission, we just calculated it by 15, as because the time span is 2000 to 2015. Activity data means the data we used for the developing of reference emission level. You can see it here, like land cover map 2000, developed based on the Landsat images, and land cover map 2015, which is developed using the spot satellite image of 2015. These are the basic two data sets we used, and at the same time we also integrated tree cover change map 2000 to 2014. This we integrated with these two maps to find out the degradation. We identified where the tree coverage is reducing in the land cover classes, and we identified the degraded areas for the land cover classes, which is degrading. There are 15 land cover classes we identified, and for them we identified the emission factors to identify the emission and removal for the country. So this is the figure, above ground biomass ton per hectare, and per percentage of tree cover we identified and we calculated. The activity data, it is essential that we have to assess the accuracy of those data sets for actually for the activity data, deforestation, degradation, and forest enhancements. So you can see the spots in the map in the right side of the slides that these are the areas where we identified our plots to take consideration under the accuracy assessment. We did the Landsat, and you can see in the left side that Landsat, Google Earth we used, and our expert knowledge as well as field experiences, and to some extent we visited some of the plots where we much confused, and that is how we really assess the accuracy of the activity data. And you can see the error matrix is there. All together we use 952 sample plots to assess the accuracy. And here is the our final figure for where we did work much, or not less than 2 years we worked together to get this figure, which is forest reference emission level or forest reference level. So you can see the tons carbon dioxide equivalent per year. We can see the total emission from the country at the national level. You can see 1.1 million, and then 0.8 million is the reference level, which is removal. So in the coastal area, we are seeing the removal much than the emission. You can see it, but hill and shale forest, there are actually more than their emission is much more than the removals. If you look at the figures in Sundarban as well, there are some enhancement in the forest. You can see it here, but in the Sundarban, some
2 more minutes.
Thank you. Within the Sundarban, we can see also there are some emission. This is identified due to the erosion. And in the village, it's you can see that there are enhancement of tree cover. We can see it here. So these are the detailed figure. I will not explain it again. So we submitted our FRL in the UNFCCC, and exactly they just reviewed, the technical persons, they reviewed, and then there are some dates you can see. So we several of the sessions we did with them, and they had put many of the questions. We just address all of these questions. We again resubmitted the FRL, and then finally this is accepted by the UNFCCC. You can look at it also. It is available in online in the UNFCCC website. So what we'll be thinking is there are also possible for future improvement of FREL document. So country-specific emission factor for soil, deadwood, and litter, it's possible because you know that Bangladesh Forest Department already conducted a Bangladesh Forest Inventory for the national level. So we will be accumulating those data for addressing, for improvement of the future FREL. We are thinking also to develop the digitalized forest boundary, and also capacity building. It's also always essential for updating our knowledge. And establishing, we are thinking also to establish separate plus unit in Bangladesh Forest Department so that they can dedicatedly work for that one. So several next steps we also can think about. So we are thinking that to put the national, we already, it's forwarded to the ministry for the approval of National REDD+ strategy. So we are hopeful that soon it will be approved, and there are some other work we should do in the field, as well as strengthen the management capacities of Forest Department. And I think that's all from my side now. So thank you very much. If you have question, I'll be coming back again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mariam. That was very informative and thorough. We have actually a lot of questions. So the next 10 minutes we will be spending trying to address at least some of these, and once we don't get to, we will come back at the end again in the longer discussion to address. So without further ado, I'll get started with some of the questions that have been posted. To start with, the first one from Mr. Arun Bhoj. Thank you very much. I'm can be publicly accessible, similar to the forest inventory and analysis data of U.S. Forest Service. Is that it can be addressed to, if either of you want to address this?
Hello, can you listen me? Yeah, I think our.
Sorry, could you?
Yeah, do you listen me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think our data are available in two sites. One is some of the information, particularly the reports, are available at UNFCCC websites, RED Plus website. We have submitted two versions of RED Plus. One is earlier version, and that second one is a improved version. I think two versions should be available at the UNFCCC websites. Then again, it is available also in Bangladesh Forest Information System that is hosted in our website, Forest Department website. So, but the data may not be available in the website. If somebody is very interested, he can collect from the Forest Department with a proper approval, I think.
Great.
Mariam, am I correct?
Yes, sir. Also the link, BFIS, Bangladesh Forest Information System, the link already is, I put in the chat box. You can also click it there, so you can have some information at least there. Some of the information like land cover map also available there, and all the reports you can see in the modules of the BFIS. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Our next question, which is again addressed to either of you. Do local government have any, this is by Shirley Akhter, and the question is, do local government have any involvement in monitoring? Again, this can be addressed by either of you. Do local government have any involved in monitoring?
I think by local government, what was actually addressed, I'm not sure, but in our consultation process, all the ministries were involved. But in monitoring forest change, as RED Plus monitoring is involved with the satellite image and land use change. I think it is calculated by through satellite image evaluation. So I think these ministries, as us, it were not involved.
Okay, great. We can come back to that if needs further clarification. This is a question to the DCCF, to Mukul sir. Regarding increasing the forest cover at 16%, will the trees outside the forest be considered, or afforestation, reforestation only in forest land will be considered? Thank you in advance.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think this is a very nice question and a very technical question. In terms of definition, if you carefully remember the definition presented by Dr. Mariam, it said FREL is only based on forest land. Any areas tree outside forest was not calculated in FREL. So if we say 16%, it has to be from forest land, not from tree outside forest areas.
Okay, that's good. We have time for just three more questions here. This is a question from Tahmina Zaman Khan. And the question is, can we get industry-wise emission factor as we as a bank want to calculate our emissions of our loan portfolio?
I think I would answer this question. So industry-wise emission factor, it's possible. There are guidelines to calculate the emission factor. And I think Department of Environment is the proper organization to communicate with, and they will provide you the guidance and then guideline how to calculate the emission factor for the industry. Thank you.
Go back to another question from Arun Bose again. This is actually two questions. How do the naturally regenerated forests, are these included in the FRL? That's question one. And question two, in the consist a major portion of total ecosystem-led carbon. Is there any quantification approach that estimates the magnitude of carbon that we're not ignoring or measuring? So the first one about naturally regenerated forests included in FRL, and the second one about the context of Sundarbans.
I think this question has to be dealt by Dr. Mariam. If you miss something, I will then. Mariam.
So Samiya, I couldn't hear you actually.
Sorry, I'll just ask the first question. How do the naturally regenerated forests, were these included in the FRL? That's question one.
Yes, I can answer this one. But yes, only the natural planted all over the forest, trees available in the forest area is included for FRL development.
Okay, that's great.
Whatever the kind of these trees in the forest area is considered.
Okay, great. And the second one was about, are there any quantification approach that estimates the magnitude of carbon from, so as we know in the context of Sundarban, soil, a major portion of the ecosystem level carbon. So since we know that, are there any quantification approach that estimates the magnitude of carbon from here?
Actually, the guideline we used that was developed by UNFCCC and also IPCC guidelines. So we use quantification, maybe there is possible, but for us, what we did, we identified the pools, carbon pools, and accordingly, we identified the emission factors for the pools, and then activity data and the emission factor, we just multiplied it to get the emission. So thing is that for the soil, we have data right now, and then for dead wood, litter, these are the pools. We have a newly forest inventory. We just accumulated those data, the above ground biomass for that, and then below ground biomass only for, we have soil data. And for the trees, above ground biomass we have calculated. So all of this information we will be using for the calculation of emission factor and the emission.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm gonna, take two more questions and then we'll move to the next speaker. This is for Mohammad Akhter Hossain. And this is to our first speaker. What is the plan for increasing tree cover from 22% to 24% across the country? And what can BFG do with that?
Okay, this is to me, I think.
Yes, it is, sir.
Yeah, I think for tree cover includes forest area and also tree outside forest area. For tree cover improvement, there is a commitment of our Prime Minister to increase forest tree cover to 24%. And for that, we are actually having measures in forest area through tree planting, afforestation, other activities, and tree outside forest areas. We are distributing seedlings and selling, raising and selling seedlings to community members, and bringing some of the strip plantation, that is plantations in marginal lands, for example, roadsides, canal banks, and there. You should remember that last year, other than the forest area, outside forest areas, we distributed 1 crore seedlings in the name of Mujib Centennial Program. You know that. already. I think for another 2 years, we will continue similar kind of program in the 3 outside forest areas.
Okay, and this is the last question. Well, we have many more questions, but for now, this is the time we have for one more question. Reduction of burning fuel wood is a target, and the BFD is working with it. But tobacco cultivators for curing tobacco leaves are apparently burning a lot of fuel wood, which goes against NBS. Does the Forest Department have any regarding the tobacco cultivation?
Yes, yeah. I think right now we don't have any program for tobacco cultivators, but in their clinics they are using a lot of forest woods in burning tobacco. For that, in our National Red Plus strategy, we suggested some measures to improve their cleans using I think briquette and some other cooking materials. It was suggested, but we hopefully with the support of some other ministries, we have to do it.
Great. Great. Okay. Thank you so much. I think for now we will have to put a curb on the questions, but we do have several more questions that we will pick up on. So thank you so much from our audience for really interesting questions, which we will continue after our next stops. Again, a big thank you to Mr. Rakibul Hasan Mukul, as well as Dr. Mariam Akhter for your very enlightening and interesting talks. We hope to continue the dialogues after our next two talks. I would now like to hand over the moderation to our chair, Mr. Rakibul Amin, so he can moderate the next two talks. Thank you.
Thank you, Samiya, for a brilliant start and two brilliant presentations. We have had lots of questions. I still there are many questions, as you say. We'll come back. There are a few more questions. Two from Istiak Soban, maybe Mukul Bhai, if you can look at those two questions. We'll come back to you after the two presentation. There was a question on whether there are any assessment methods to assess the carbon sequestration in the protected area. So rightly, there is a presentation now. Is Dr. Nazmus Sadath has joined us. Samiya, can you confirm? Dr. Nazmus Sadath, are you with us?
Yes, I am here.
Exactly. Excellent. Excellent. So Dr. Nazmus Sadath, Professor Forestry in Wood Discipline, Khulna University. So he will be presenting on carbon sequestration assessment of wetland in Bangladesh for climate mitigation and adaptation. So the floor is open. Dr. Sadath, if you can start your presentation.
Thank you very much for providing me the opportunities. Shall I share it from here, or the moderator will share it?
If you can, that will be best.
Slide.
Try to share it from your end. If you have any problem, we will take it over.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So
we can see your slide.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to tell that I am very happy to hear and thank you for inviting me. And already I am introduced. I am Nazmus Sadath, working in forestry and technology discipline, and also working in other capacities in several institutions. However, in our university, there is an emergency situation going on, so I will be switching off. I am connected from the university, and I will be switching off my video, but the slides will be there. And I will try to be within the time. Thank you very much. Although the slide's title is telling that biodiversity and carbon sequestration assessment of wetlands in Bangladesh for climate mitigation adaptation, I will be concentrating here on carbon sequestration basically, because I was listening. There are questions as what are the methodologies. Being a scientist here, or working here, or a student here, whatever I could say, refer myself. That's our part, that how we assess these things. And so is it moving? Okay. Can anyone assure me that the slides are moving?
Slides are moving, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. First, I would say that that's what is wetland. Actually, we adopt Ramsar's definitions of wetlands in Bangladesh. And obviously, being a delta, Bangladesh is blessed with many wetlands. I am saying blessed because wetlands are the natural resource base that supports livelihoods, that supports ecosystem services, that also supports wildlife. This is actually a blessings from whatever I should say. Now, according to Ramsar Convention, the wetlands are wetlands includes wide variety of habitats such as marshes, peatlands, floodplains, rivers, lakes, coastal areas such as salt marsh, mangroves and seagrasses, seagrass beds, but also coral reefs. But however, here we have to be certain that at low time that the depth should not be more than 6 meters. So these are the wetlands. So where our wetlands are, if we see this map here, we can see we have basically several clusters of wetlands. Here we can see here that's the mangroves, one of the Ramsar site. Here we can see Tangwar How, that's also a Ramsar site. These are the two official Ramsar sites of Bangladesh. And all over the world, we can see wetlands. Now, it is clear that wetlands are basically a water-dominated ecosystem. However, every wetland ecosystems dynamics, trees plays a vital role because trees are a very important component for the inhabitants of that wetlands. I am meaning that's the wildlife, the fishes, and also the local people or populations who lives on that wetlands. Here you can see that's basically two color shades. One is for dry season. The dark shades are for dry season. That's always there will be water, and wet season, wetland distributions of Bangladesh. No, wetlands roles I have already mentioned. That's wetland resources treats as a very important assets of Bangladesh, considering their socio-economic importance and ecosystem services, agricultural, fishing, forest products, and navigations are the among the most major supports that we get from our wetlands. Hence, the wetland, for livelihood, a large group of people are intricately linked with the productivity and sustainability of wetland. That's why we are very much concerned about the sustainability of our wetlands. Wetlands and climate change. Now I'm coming to that part. That wetlands play a key role in carbon cycle management through sinking carbon dioxide in the vegetations. Those are present in the wetlands. Also in the grasses, bushes, trees. And however, what we are seeing right now in different wetland areas of Bangladesh, we are losing the trees. Particularly if I mention one of the Ramsar sites in Sylhet region, Tangwar Haur, we are losing our major tree species there, like Jarul, Hijol, and Borun. These species are degrading from there. There are different problems. I will come to that in the later part of our presentation. Let's move on. That's how forest crop. I think it's already been covered by two very enlightened presenters, Rakibul Bhai and Mariam previously. So I'm skipping these things, that how forests actually involved in climate change mitigation. That's one is deforestation and afforestation for sequestration, carbon, existing forest deforestation, reduction, all these things. Biodiversity index are the tools and quantitative measures, how we actually measure how good the biodiversity is. What we measure, there are four index we use. These indexes tells us that whether the biodiversity of that area is rich, whether there is a dominance factor there, is dominated by what kind of species, or it is evenly distributed. These can be measured using these indexes. What we did there, we tried to measure the biodiversity according quantitatively using these indexes, and also we try to assess the carbon stock per hectare in and around the wetlands with the wetland management framework. We also provided a wetland management framework for Haur and Wetland Department to introduce for future management. Anyway, why I say that's in and around, because we have tree vegetation cover within the wetlands in many cases. Let's say for Sundarban, it's a forest. This is completely dominated by tree. In Tanguar Haur, Hakaluki Haur, there are trees. If we talk about Kaptai Lake, trees are also a dominant factor there. So we took the concept that we should be considering the trees as a valuable component of the wetland and measure their carbon sequestration. These are the study sites. These are done. Iucn also probably done work also done by Forest Administration. So I will be, the new thing here was the other sites. There, the carbon sequestration data was not that much available in Bangladesh. So what we did there, we took, this is easier to understand. What we used there, the methodology was use a nested plot model, because this is a plot where for tree we use 20 by 20 meter plot size. For poles within that plot we use 10 by 10 meter plots, and for seedlings we use 5 by 5. What we did there, we measured the tree diameter, tree height, and then we use allometric equations given by Chafe, and then we calculate that how. And what we did, you can see here the 380 nested plots were designed all over the study sites. Then 300 personal interviews also done, because when we talk about biodiversity, we have to get the information about what tree species were there and what is not there right now. So as it is very difficult in Bangladesh to find out all these databases, that's what was in 2000 and what was in 1990 and what was the vegetation dynamics statistics in 2015. Now, if we see from 2000 on, we can get some literature, but before that, we don't get that much literature. So we had to rely on the elderly peoples who could say, that's like this. If you ask someone, is there Polash or Tomal here? They could say, yes, it was here, but now it is not here. So you can easily interpolate that, explain that logically, that it was there, but now that species is gone from that ecosystem. That's why this personal interviews, informal interviews, and FGDs were made. And also one of the objective was to provide a management framework. Then you need local people's perception, that how they feel about their wetland, how these things can be managed. Now, how we did it, this is the technical part. We measured the above ground biomass on our plot basis. Then we converted that to the on hectare, and the formula is that we get the biomass from using the equations, and then we multiplied that with the density. Then we multiplied that with the 0.47, so that's the carbon. We assume that the rest is water. So that's, by that way we can say that each tree contains how much carbon, and then we convert it to the per hectare basis. So these are some pictures. So this is the formula. That's how we calculate that. See that above ground biomass, and then from above ground biomass there are equations. With that we can go to we also calculate the below ground biomass for a particular tree. And then if we add those two, then we get a particular tree's carbon content. I'm not going into the biodiversity methodology very much because time is limited. Our concentration is on today on carbon sequestration. So what we have here, these are just going through. These are the results graphically. That's what are the biodiversity context. We can see that Kaptai Lake's biodiversity is good. Hakaluki Haur is also good. Sundarban is not here because Sundarban's biodiversity we all know. That's why it is not here. And you can, surprisingly, you could see that Rakibul swamp forest biodiversity is lower because it is an important site. However, the tree species numbers are lower there. That's why the result is like this. And Sundarban's index are here, Sundarban biodiversity. And if we see the carbon stocks we found here, that Kaptai Lake area, we have the highest carbon stocks. The stocks are like here, the Kaptai area, Sundarban, respectively. If we see that's from, if we start from Tangwarhau, it's 25.929, 28.767, 31, 33, 59, and 31, respectively. This is ton per hectare carbons are there. And if we go to the management issues, how much time is left? May I know?
You still have about 4 minutes.
Good, thank you very much. So the issues are there in our wetlands are basically land tenure, habitat degradation, it's for Tangwarhau, and Hakaluki-Haur, it's again land tenure. Because why it is land tenure there? It is basically managed by civil land administration. And also, this is kind of ecologically important site. This is kind of a very important site for wildlife management, very important site for habitat management. However, our forest administration has very less jurisdiction there to manage those tree crops, but it is managed by the land administration. And if we see, there are few threats are like that grazing and ground trolling. There are many attempts are made in Hakaluki, particularly as per my knowledge, and we came to know from our study too. Forest administration tried to plant there these trees like hijol and koroj, but there was a major issue. After planting, those plantations does not sustain because of ground trolling of nets. In wet season and late wet season and early dry season, the fishermen use nets that's actually remove the planting stocks from there. And later on, those who have ideas about Sylhet region, those bathans, that's cattle grazing is a major issue, is also there. As these are very intertangled things. In one way, there is livelihood, and another way, there are ecosystem. We are losing this species, and this is a vast opportunistic area also to increase our carbon stocks. However, I should make myself clear, outside Sundarban and the forest areas around the Kaptai Lake are not belongs to the RAID initiative, because they are, as it is clear from our previous lectures, they are not a forest site. But the carbon stocks are stock measurement is important there in our other reports to UNFCCC, like our greenhouse gas estimation, our overall carbon stock estimations in Bangladesh under CDM. These are important. That's why we are trying to also assessing the carbon stock assessment in home gardens, in strip plantations, in wetland areas, other tree dominated areas of Bangladesh. Because in Bangladesh, we have forest in very limited areas. Percentage is low. We are trying to increase that. Our forest administration is trying their best to increase that. However, on the other hand, we have a very, very green country, and our village areas are really dominated by tree species, and our tree planting movement contributed a lot there. And hence, this could be a takeaway argument point for us in future negotiation in UNFCCC or any of the COPs, that these carbons of our village forest, our other trees outside the forest should be taken into consideration, so that we can get benefit from there. That's why, that is one of the reasons that we are from the academia and research, and also forest administration is trying to build protocols and allometric equations to assess carbon stocks in trees outside the forest. So in nutshell, these basic situation, what we can see that land tenure is one of the problem, and many of the wetlands sedimentation is a big problem, and sedimentation directly linked with losing tree covers around the wetland, particularly in Kaptai region, is one of the major problem. The removal of tree crops, or what we say that trees from the hills, directly impacting the sedimentation of the Kaptai lake, and that having an impact on fisheries production in the lake. That's we came to know from there. So there are also.
If you can finish within 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Let's then move on to the management framework. This I want to finish here. All these things we propose for introduction of trees, for enhancement of carbon stocks in our wetlands. All these things we actually proposed a participatory management approach in our wetlands. There are, you can see here, from academic perspectives, we proposed three tiers. One is a local level wetland conservation groups that it's all stakeholders having dependency on the wetlands for their livelihood. Then Union Wetland Conservation Forum, our local government should be involved there, and finally Upajala. And there could be another one at the very national level, steering committee or whatever, they will oversee these things, involvement of the government agencies. So if this is a proposed management framework, we are hoping that in sooner future it will be adopted, and definitely it is our wetlands are multi-stakeholders affair. So inter-departmental coordination is a must for conservation of wetland and for conservation of carbon stocks in the inside the wetlands. So with that remark, I would like to finish. If there is any question, I am available here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sadath, for nicely bringing in the scientific methodology for carbon sequestration measurement to the issues that determine the governance of the wetlands, including tenure and a kind of a proposed management structure for policymakers to consider. This is excellent presentation. Just have a look into the question Q&A. If there is any particular question directed towards you, we'll bring back, we'll get back to you for those answers, question and answer session. Now, I'd like to ask Dr. Khalid Hossain, Program Coordinator, Iucn Bangladesh, and he will be talking about applying Iucn's nature-based solution standard in forestry sector. Khalid, over to you.
Thank you, Rakibul. Thanks, everyone. Good afternoon. I can say that my presentation will be the least technical one among all the presentations, but very much related to the title of today's session, forest as NBS to climate change mitigation and adaptation. So the thing is that as we have been hearing about some forest conservation projects or initiatives, including REDD+, the question can come up, like whether all the forest conservation projects are nature-based solutions or can be claimed as nature-based solutions, including the REDD+ related projects. So from that perspective, we can talk about Iucn's global nature-based solution standard, whether we can claim any forest conservation project as nature-based solution or not. So when we were discussing about nature-based solution and the principles, initially we had the discussion that all conservation efforts are important, but those conservation efforts would not be necessarily nature-based solutions. But nature-based solutions obviously offer conservation benefits, but not all conservation efforts are nature-based solutions. So what do we mean by that? Since we know that some of the conservation efforts could be very much top-down because of the necessity in the ground, but maybe those would not be treated as nature-based solution because it has certain criteria. So I would try to present IUCN's nature-based solution standard. There are certain indicators. I would not go through all of those, but I would try to have a brief overview of the whole thing. I guess my screen can be seen. I would stop my video.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So the starting point of nature-based solutions, obviously we are talking about different societal challenges. I will not go through those. You know about some of those challenges, like we are facing water crisis, we are facing climate crisis, there are different disasters. So we are facing different societal challenges. But the main idea is like the very idea of sustainable development. We are saying that the biosphere, it provides the ultimate foundation of those, like addressing those challenges. If we even plot the all SDGs under biosphere, society, and economy, we can see that it provides a foundation. Then there are different elements within the society or societal challenges. We can tackle those, and we can also bring different economic solutions by considering nature as the foundation. And this nature-based solution standard, which I'm going to talk about, it has as a path, like over the years, we have been discussing about it, even the conference, the Gobeshona conference, this time, it has a strong focus on nature-based solution. Different sections are touching nature-based solutions. And even yesterday, there was one special supplement published by Climate Dhaka Tribune in the Climate Tribune, which was focused on nature-based solution. So we can see that a lot of things are happening, and Iucn has followed a consultative path over the years to reach at this standard. So I will not go through it, but it has obviously taken a lot of input from different groups. So what is the definition say about nature-based solution? So it is talking about protecting, sustainably managing, and restoring natural or modified ecosystem, which can address the societal challenges, which I talked about at the beginning. So it needs to address societal challenges through different action: protect, manage, sustainably manage, and restore. And it needs to provide biodiversity benefits and human well-being. So it's not just about providing biodiversity benefits, it also needs to provide human well-being, but biodiversity benefits must be there through nature-based solution. And when we are talking about nature-based solution, there are also like different other perspectives. Just few differences, like if you consider the second picture, the nature-derived solution, the windmill, you can see that it is like we are providing solution through deriving something from the nature, but it is not providing any biodiversity benefit as such. So you can't say that as a nature-based solution. So there is a difference, and there are some solutions which are inspired by nature, but not necessarily providing biodiversity benefits. So we can't say those are nature-based solutions. So nature-based solution needs to provide biodiversity benefits. And when we are talking about nature-based solution, it is not just talking about natural infrastructure. Obviously, nature would be a key part of it, but then we would also have a mix of natural and gray infrastructure to provide different solutions, considering the advancement of different innovation. So nature-based solution is not just about natural infrastructure. And since today we are focusing on forestry sector, we know that forest landscape restoration and different other forest-related projects are ongoing. So I would not go into it, but you know that there is a global initiative, Bond Challenge, which has a focus on restoring 150 million hectares towards deforested and degraded land by 2020. And so there is a target, and a lot of initiatives are going on. Iucn is also playing the Secretariat's role of Bone Challenge. So within that, different initiatives are taking place. But as I initially indicated, not all of those would be nature-based solutions. So what are the initiatives which could be termed as nature-based solution? So if we look at the actual standard, which Iucn has released last year, so it talks about 8 different criteria, and under those 8 criteria, there are 28 different indicators. And as I indicated, like it was consulted across the world. So you see 800 plus people across 100 countries. They took part in those consultation, and then we came up this standard. So the 8 criteria we are talking about. So the first criteria is saying that nature-based solution must effectively address societal challenges, which I initially talked about. So it should maybe it should address climate change and water crisis together, or few of the crises together. Then the second one is NBS should be informed by scale. What does it mean? So there are certain problems which are very much local, happening at small scale. The problem is at small scale, but when we're talking about nature-based solution, it should address a problem which has a larger scale. So any solution we're talking about should consider the scale perspective. Then the third one, which I already indicated, like nature-based solution should result in net gain to biodiversity and ecosystem integrity. For example, like maybe a solution which we're talking about, it provides some benefit to the biodiversity, but mostly focused on the economic benefits, but not providing net gain to the biodiversity benefits. So then it may not be considered as an effective nature-based solution. The fourth criteria is nature-based solution should be economically viable. It is also linked to the last criteria when we are talking about the sustainability. So economic viability of nature-based solution is really important. It's one of the major criteria. And the fifth criteria, and we are saying that this is the most important criteria, because I could come to that, like there are different weightage in different criteria, and this criteria has the highest weightage. Like nature-based solution should be based on inclusive, transparent, and empowering governance process. So, for example, maybe there is an initiative, for example, like Hillsha ban, and that may come from the government without much consultation. Then it may not be considered as an effective nature-based solution. But if it includes the community in an inclusive manner, then it may be considered as a stronger nature-based solution. So it has an important weightage within the whole thing. Then we also see that when we are talking about nature-based solution, there are different trade-offs. Due to the solution, some groups would be benefited and some groups would be negatively affected, or there would be some ecosystem benefit in one sector, then there are some losses in another sector. So we need to balance that trade-off to achieve the primary goal of a particular project or particular initiative. And the seventh criteria is related to the monitoring, evaluation, learning perspective of a project, where nature-based solutions need to be managed adaptively based on the evidence coming from the monitoring and evaluation. So it should not be very much static. It needs to be always adaptive. So those kind of solutions need to be proposed. And final one is the sustainability perspective, the mainstreaming perspective, the policy perspective. So any nature-based solutions we are talking about, it should inform the policy, like what are the policy implications, what are the message for the policy makers, what they can take from a nature-based solution we're talking about. So any solution we're talking about need to consider that perspective. And I will not go into the different indicators. You can just see one example. You can find the whole thing from Iucn's website. So each criteria has those indicators. And if you see this spider web, this is a self-assessment tool we have developed. Because at the moment, we're saying that different organizations should understand the whole standard, and if they want to consider their projects as like nature-based solutions, the initiative as nature-based solutions, they can use this self-assessment tool. So we are not judging each other's project, rather we are judging ourselves if we want to improve our initiatives as nature-based solutions. So for example, if you just see this hypothetical exercise, so you can see that different in the first column you can see the criteria, second column the criteria score someone is providing, the self-assessment someone is doing, and third column is the maximum criteria score someone can provide. And you can see that core criteria has the maximum score 9, but the fifth one, as I indicated, the inclusive governance one, it has 15 as the maximum score, so it has the highest weightage, and third and fourth criteria has 12 as the highest score. So someone is having a self-assessment and putting this score, and you can see that this hypothetical example, the societal challenge part, someone is getting 9 out of 9 through his or her self-assessment, but the solution may not be that much economically feasible. So 2 out of 12, and then the criteria percentage is very low, and someone can have a total score based on the overall self-assessment. So you can see that it is 0.7, so not very bad. But maybe in terms of economic feasibility, it didn't do well as in terms of balancing trade-off. So any initiative which we want to self-assess, we can use it, and then we can improve. Like maybe if there is another phase, we can see that okay, in the first phase we didn't do well in terms of economic feasibility, how we can improve it in the next phase. So in that way we can improve our initiative from the perspective of nature-based solution. And this is again the representation. Like if you are more into the green space, you can see that you are strong, and if you are in the red zone, inadequate, and then there are some middle ground. This is the final slide. As you can see, we are trying to promote the practice at the moment very much, so awareing everyone around the standard of nature-based solution, because there is also kind of a tendency to repackage some of the initiatives we were having in the past and just saying that, okay, these are nature-based solution. Because we saw the similar kind of trend when we earlier discussed about climate change adaptation. So most of the initiatives, we saw that at the time, those were repackaged as climate change adaptation. Then we also had the discussion around maladaptation. So for nature-based solution, we at the moment we want to create greater awareness so that we use the tool more and more, self-assess ourselves rather than assessing others. Then we create a larger group. So there are standard committee working at global level. The scientific committee is working, and then there are also user group. Anyone can join in the user group of nature-based solution to contribute in that process. So I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalid. Right on time. It's a very good presentation. Just to add to what Khalid has mentioned, this is a standard that Iucn is now promoting globally, and you know there are a lot of enthusiasm and interest on nature-based solutions. So what we are thinking, our thinking is that it needs to be understood properly. Self-assessment guidelines is one of the example, like where there is to avoid super simplification, which will lead to misuse or not getting the proper benefit of from this new concept. It is not just a nomenclature. It's not doing the same old thing, but calling it a different name, what we call in old wine in a new bottle. It is not. It's a new way of thinking. So we need some capacity building on that as well. So as Khalid has mentioned in his last slide, there are user group, there are standards group, at least at the user group. Those who are interested, you can join. If you want to join, please communicate with either Khalid or me. Going back to the question and answer session, I can see there are a lot of very technical questions of the methodology. I think we will avoid today going into the much detail of the methodology. So I will ask those who have asked me, like Mr. Akhter, Hossain, to get in touch directly with Dr. Mariam or Dr. Sadath to get your answer. Few questions I said, one was directed to Ishtiaq Bhai, is about whether timber, as we are becoming timber importing country, any plan for commercial timber production. There was another comment by on wetland carbon measurement, whether including only the tree species may have resulted in the lower scope, as not necessarily wetland. This above ground carbon sequestration is important. So lower ground carbon sequestration also by aquatic vegetation and the soil is more important. So maybe Dr. Sadath can answer that first question on the timber productivity and commercialization of timber production in Bangladesh. Maybe Mukul Bhai can answer that. There was a third question. I see there is open water versus aquaculture. When we have such a rich open water sources, why aquaculture gets more important. But I don't think we are not in a position that we don't have any participants from Fisheries Department. But I mean, it's an open question, Samiya. You can also you can take it. So Mukul Bhai first and Dr. Sadath.
Okay, yes, I'm here. Can I take the question of Ishtiaq Sawan Bhai?
Sure.
Yeah, for that, our answer is right now is that we don't have any such program right now about large scale timber production because from 1986, forestry sector, harvesting is banned from natural forestry. Yes, still we are continuing with the harvesting in our social forest areas where actually large scale timber production was not targeted. It's a small woodlot plantation was targeted for the benefit of the social forestry beneficiaries. But he has a point. In future, our demand for timber and valuable timber will increase in Bangladesh with the advancement of the country. So we can plan it, and in the line of RED Plus implementation, we can plan it with the communities in some areas, particularly maybe in Chittagong Hill Tracts or maybe in some other areas. That has to be discussed and planned accordingly, I think.
Thank you, Mukul Bhai. I think this is I mean, it's also an equity issue in a sense, whether large-scale community plantation, community-based approach, where the benefits can be shared between among the large group of people versus private sector, big industry, and the profit making. So those are social equity issues also need to be understood. And I think this is part of the RED Plus process. Anyway, we can have more debate on that. Let's go to the next question, which is a wetland above ground and below ground carbon sequestration. Only the
Thank you, Rakibul bhai. Can you please tell me the question again?
He was mentioned, it's not a question, more of a comment, like, you
Yeah.
know, you count only the 3 species in our system, like in Tangor Hao, the result less. You should have been aquatic vegetation.
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. Aquatic plants and herbs and shrubs, those were counted, and we tried to identify these species. But for the aquatic plant, we didn't actually, because we didn't have that resource and expertise in our team to do that. But that's in the future project plan. That's how the aquatic plants can be measured too. And there are other questions. Just in short, I can just in bullet form I can answer. The methodological aspect, there are a few questions that yes, we lay out our plots in such a way that there was a kind of a systematic way. There are plots, to generalize, there are plots which is completely barren land. So
anyway, I think let's leave the very detailed methodology part. We can discuss
okay
basis.
Okay, I have shared my email address to the chat box.
I think that's better. That's better. I think we are in the last 10 minutes, and we should be, Samiya and myself will try to summarize the discussion we had.
Thank you.
And it was a very rich presentation, very rich discussion. Samiya, do you like to say something? You know, what's your takeaway from this session?
To all the speakers, some really great talks. I learned a lot from it. And again, to add to what Rakibul said, there's so many questions around the science and the methodology, and I'm really keen to follow up on that as well. But what my takeaway, just 2 points really. You know, we heard a lot of the strong science behind this, but also governance issues behind this, and underlying thread that I've seen across all of nature-based solutions, and Khalid, you know, gave a really good understanding of, you know, what it actually means, what the different component means. Keeping in mind these issues of equity and who are winners and losers of you know, as we develop this forward, as we continue to find solutions that, you know, we hope is for the benefit and mitigate climate change. I think that we need to have more continued open sharing of this knowledge. So platforms where, you know, initially there was questions of, you know, the data for the forest cover, land cover, the results from these findings. If we could recommend that these are shared in other platforms as well. So obviously there will be publications, I'm sure, but just to have more dialogues around both the science, but also what these development and governance of forests means for the communities. Aquaculture and fisheries were mentioned, livelihoods was mentioned, and you know, who really gets to benefit from these research around this and knowledge sharing around this also needs to continue. And from our side, we're really keen, you know, those are the issues that we focused in a lot, whether we talk about resilience and livelihoods, but, you know, issues in view. So I would recommend, and, you know, would encourage that we continue to share, have the strong scientific rigor, which we seem to do, which is great, but, you know, sharing of these methods so that we can all feedback on it as you know, as possible, but also take a continued work around the ecosystem-based adaptation, nature-based solutions, land rights, deforestation, and how it fits into all our other areas of work. We work in conservation. Again, a big thank you to everyone, and thank you to my my colleague Joy Bhumek here. I cannot, you know, not mention him. He's the one who really brought together a lot of the speakers that are here today. So thank you, Joy, for you know, really starting up this platform, and then obviously Iucn, our partners in this session, for jointly being able to do it together in the way that we think it'll be productive, informative, and hopefully we can learn a lot from it. So once again, thank you to Gobeshona, our organizers, and Raquibul Sir, from Iucn, and all participants and panelists. I'll pass it back to you now.
Thank you, Samiya, for a nice summing up the discussion we had. Um, I would say if you look at the questions, as you rightly say, there's a more technical question, the methodology, which I think is a more easier part of the problem. If you talk about REDD+, it's more the policy, the governance, and the structure, and the strategy. Those are more critical issues. I was a bit surprised that not much of questions asked. It's maybe either we understand the subject very well, or we still scratching on the surface. Myself, I can confess, REDD+, I don't understand very much. This is quite a complicated process, and thank you, Rakibul, Hasan, and Dr. Mariam for making it very clear where we stand in terms of REDD+. And they have, as rightly mentioned, we just as part of the almost finishing the readiness portion, and as miles to go from readiness, transformation from readiness to strategy and to implementation of the REDD+ project. And there are a lot of uncertainty regarding the REDD+, and we need to learn where this REDD+ project has already been, or REDD+ has already been implemented, like countries like Indonesia and Brazil, where they have long investment, at least more than 15 years of investment going on, that what we have learned from there. There is a very nice summary by C4 on the REDD+. I encourage everybody to read that. It's available on the internet. What is the challenges and opportunities of REDD+. Some of it, within my limited understanding of REDD+, is the major challenge is economic and political interest, and how, I mean, this political economy, and bringing REDD+ in this PES scheme, or payment for ecosystem, or compensation. And it will only work if the compensation is higher than the alternative forest use. As long as it doesn't match or it's not higher, forest will get transferred, transformed or encroached. This challenge will never go. Similar way Dr. Sadath has mentioned in his presentation, the challenges is very similar. Is the governance, is the tenure, which both Mukul Bhai and Dr. Mariam has mentioned. In the meantime, when we are going, now and when we will already have a strong REDD+ regime in Bangladesh, whether this is 1 year, whether this is 10 years, or whether it's in between, but whether we should, whether there should be a stopgap. And the stopgap I see is a no regret policy. That means we continue to emphasize on integrated conservation and development pathways. So we do the conservation, we provide the alternatives, so that we take away the perverse incentives, so that our conservation effort is ongoing. We also get benefits from these natural resources for the masses. And one of the challenge would be the international financing, which is still uncertain. Most of the REDD+ is still funded by development aid budget. The carbon market is still volatile. So those issues need to be understood. But in the meantime, as I say, those no regret policy, where we continue our conservation effort, that's the I think it's a stopgap. We can continue to do so. If the REDD+ regime comes, which is well and good, and it will also come with its own set of challenges that we can learn from the countries who have already implemented less REDD+ regime, like Indonesia. Again, the books and literature, those are very will be useful. In terms of the wetland presentation, the measurements and the methodologies, again, is I would say, easier part, in a sense. Those are global knowledge. We transfer those global knowledge to local capacity, and we do that. But how do we manage the wetlands? Again, this common property resource management issue, because those wetlands are it's a mixture of common property versus state property, and the way it's managed, the elite capture leasing system. As a Tangor House is only example where the lease system, the ownership from land ministry has been transferred to the Ministry of Environment and Forest. And Iucn has tried and helped the government to introduce a community-based management. It's still not foolproof. It's a process. It takes a lot of time and effort and capacity building at all tiers, starting from the community and the government level. That we have done in the last 12 years, but more investment is needed. There's more projects coming from Jeff, Ministry of Environment and the Department of Environment. And it's a continuous process. And the major challenge is land tenure again, like in the forestry sector and wetland sector is a land tenure, and secure tenure is a bigger challenge. The structure that Dr. Sadath has mentioned is very much similar that we have developed in Tangurhau. There are a few examples from Biodiversity USAT project and also other bills. I recall it was in Akaluki Hau. So lot to learn what works and what doesn't work, and lot to learn from other countries. Chilka is from India, the Ramsar site, similar to Tangurhau. We went there, we took the government officials there to understand the structure, governance structure, and whether we can replicate. We found the top structure is very good in Chilka, but the community structure is not as good. But whereas in Tangurhau, we have done the community structure good, the upper layer is still where we are struggling. Anyway, so these are the few issues. I think it's nicely presented, the context of REDD+ in forestry sector, carbon sequestration studies in wetlands, and then the challenges we see in case of natural resource, whether it's a forest or whether it's a wetland. Challenges are more or less similar. There are, of course, context-specific issues, but major challenges are more or less similar. And Khalid's finished with a nature-based solution presentation. Again, if you need to know more about nature, please contact with us. This is a new way of thinking nature and people, and using nature and investing in nature consciously so that it bring benefits for the people. It's a bit different than investing in nature like protected area, than using nature as a development project. I mean, investing in nature for the benefit of people and redesigning our development project in such a way that in any development project has co-benefit on biodiversity conservation. So I think we are right on time, 3 o'clock. I thank Gobeshona for organizing this brilliant humongous task of bringing so many people from all corners of the world and organizing this seminar. And I thank Dr. Samiya and Joy Bhumik, Samiya and Joy Bhumik for co-hosting this. Iucn and ULAB co-hosted this session. And thank you very much, all the presenters, 4 presenters, for your brilliant presentation. Over to you, Tashfiya. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Rakibul Bhai. So we would like to extend our sincere thanks to ULAB and Iucn to join hand in hand to run this session. And NBS has been a very important topic through this Gobeshona. And thanks for bringing this diverse topic of REDD+ and forest. I think we have Dr. Hawk with us, our director. So it will be great
okay.
if he can share some of his last remarks. Reflect something on this session. Dr. Hawk.
My apology, I didn't see that. Selim, please.
I think he's muted, or probably he's busy. I think he there's some problem. Okay, so actually I can see that there are many questions in the Q&A box, and there are many chats. So we will surely follow up. Like Iucn and ULAB will surely follow up with you all, and probably ECAD will also follow up with you all. I just would like to mention one initiative that ECAD is doing, and ULAB and Iucn are very actively engaged with that initiative as well. We are actually developing the NBS Bangladesh network, and you all are welcome to join the force. I have put my email address in the chat box as well. And we are actually very grateful that ULab and Iucn are very actively engaged with these networks. So we are very thankful to ULab, ILab, especially Joyda for organizing this, and everyone, Rakib Bhai, Khalid Bhai, Samiya Appa, Farah, and everyone, and our colleague like Adiba Shubho, who has done and run this smooth session. So thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for your kind patience to join this session. I think we can call it a day
Yep.
with this. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.